Go Oaktown.
Let's play ball.
Look out, here we go.
Here it is.
This is going to get ugly here. It is.
Welcome back to Skaters on Baseball. This is Schmitty along with Christian Cooper, and today we're going to go up Highway 80, dive into the state's capital, high five Cardiel, swing by the Vespa shop and say, "What up, Ricky?" And then move over to this guy's pool, sit down and talk about why the fuck he likes the Cincinnati Reds. This is our guest today, kids. Welcome, Curtis Franklin.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
We got to start with the obvious, dude.
I know.
Was it the big red machine like Johnny Bench? Like how did it start? How are you a Reds fan?
I'm just curious.
Okay, I've told this story like at Giants games because I'm wearing a San Francisco hat. I mean, a Reds hat at a San Francisco game. And they overheard that I told somebody that I was born in San Francisco. Like I was born at St. Francis Hospital in 1962. So, and they're going like, "Well, what the fuck? Why do you like the Reds?" And I go, "Well, when I was a little kid, it was like, I was like 6 or 7 years old, like late 60s, like 68, 69. And my neighbor had gone to a Giants game and then she brought back a pennant, and it was a Cincinnati Reds pennant, and she gave it to me. And I go, "Oh, this is my team for life." And I have it, and I've never changed. That's the only team that I've ever really obsessed over. And
so it was a pennant.
It was just a totally random thing, and I have it. My wife worked for a newspaper, and she was at an event where Sparky Anderson was there, and she got him to sign it. Wow. It was really cool. So I have it in my garage, and it's like, dude. It was, and then we got, then later on, a few years later, they became the Big Red Machine.
Mm-hmm.
I got to see them at Candlestick Park. I got to meet like Johnny Bench and stuff.
Dude, one of the greatest, right? The catcher-wise, Johnny. Dude, when I was a kid, I had pennants. I collected them, and I made a wheel out of them. I had that many, and it was just on my wall. It was so sick.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah,
that's an idea right now.
And then for some reason, I think my grandpa was a Yankees fan, so I was a Giants fan, so I hated the Dodgers. So when I was growing up, it was Yankees-Dodgers every year in the World Series. So I became a Yankees fan just because I hated the Dodgers. So I cut out the Yankees logo and I put it in the very center where they all came together. It was like, dude, I was an artist at like 8 years old. I'm like,
dude, that's rad. That's such a rad idea.
So I was just looking over the roster of the Reds. It's like you guys finally flushed out the last of the former Giants, what we call forever Giants, when Eugenio Suarez left. But I don't know if you remember that guy, but when he was on the Giants, he sucked. He sucked. And then he goes to
Cincinnati. Was on the Giants?
Yeah, originally he was a Giant, and then he went to Cincinnati, and he just raked for a couple of years, right?
Lots of strikeouts.
Well, yeah, but lots of home runs.
Oh yeah, he had one really, really great year.
Yeah, we tend to see that a lot with Giants that get flushed and they end up going somewhere else and flourishing. We got that clown down in Houston right now that's talking a lot of shit about the Giants, and he's been playing pretty good down there at Dubon. So, you guys are Giants free for the moment.
but the Reds do the same thing. Like you guys got like DeSclafani, and who you guys get. Casale was a good catcher. I mean, the Giants won when he caught. He was
a good backup catcher.
Yeah,
totally. And for some reason, his percentage of winning when he's catching is really high, and I could never really figure it out because he can't do shit at the plate. But he's just a really good catcher.
It's just the way it is. It's just some guys they just have that connection with the pitchers. I think that makes it's like they can't do any wrong behind the plate. They call a good game, whatever it is. And I stand corrected. Derek Law is with the Reds right now. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. And he's hit or miss. I mean, I've seen him get hit, and I've seen him, I don't know, do okay, but not great.
He was a mess in SF. He was. He really just. He was like the hard luck guy. Like he'd just get hit like crazy. All these bloops would fall in, and then he'd throw a wild pitch and just make it worse. So, yeah, I guess I'm wrong. I guess you do have one.
You guys got Johnny Cueto, Johnny Baseball from the Reds. Or
I love
actually,
Cueto.
he's my favorite pitcher, like
He's
maybe
so
of all
cool.
time. I just
Yeah,
love his vibe.
his
Yeah.
little shimmy and all that. I'll take that. It's like,
Oh yeah,
it's not overboard like Soto. It's just like, it's a little bit to show you, but he's like a classic guy too.
totally.
Well,
And he has.
speaking
Oh,
of
go ahead.
Cueto, 2012, I mean, that's got to be a little painful for you, right? The Giants come in and
I don't remember that year. That year has been completely erased from my memory. That hurt. That really hurt.
that's
Hey,
like
you don't say
2002
fuck
for us.
San Francisco ever, dude. You know that rule. You can't fucking talk shit on us. It's like that pitcher had that shit coming, dude. All of a
Latos.
sudden,
He
he
got hurt
what did he
game
write it
one.
on his bat or on a mid or something? Huh?
He was right. So Latos was writing "fuck SF" on baseballs and giving them up,
That's
signing them.
right, Leos.
And then when Buster Posey hit the grand slam off him in the final game of that series, he hit it off his name on the facing of the second deck.
Yeah.
So it was just like poetic justice. And
I didn't know that.
The thing is, if Cueto hadn't gotten hurt in that series, there's a good chance the Giants would have got smoked, right?
Whoever was going to win that series, I think was going to win the World Series that year.
Yeah.
I
Kind
think
of
they
felt
were.
like it.
Dude, I watched that in a hotel room with Jake in Los Angeles, and we're like, yeah, and I'm like, dude, we're in LA for this. This sucks.
And one of the games had a rain delay of 5 hours.
Yeah.
I sat in the bar all day, like trying not to drink too much, waiting for the game to start.
Yeah.
And it was just like when the game finally got going, I got up and I'm like, all right, I got to hit the head, and I was like, oh, fuck, I drank way too much. And then there was a whole game after that.
That was such an amazing series. I mean, I was like, we were up 2-0 and we just choked. And I just want to add, I get super pissed when I get, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, but it's like Dusty Baker, people are like, oh, he's a choker. Oh, he could never get it done. And last year I was like all in. I just wanted to see him get a ring. I couldn't even care if he was coaching the Yankees or the Dodgers, two teams that I hate. I just love him so much.
I love Dusty.
And I know that he's made mistakes or whatever, but I just think that there's a lot of luck that goes into winning a World Series and being able even just to get there. And I think he got a lot of undue criticism. I mean, it's, I think, but I'm a total homer, man. He went to the same high school Rick Windsor did.
Dusty's 916, dude. Never forget that.
No, I love him. I didn't love him I didn't love him as a kid when he was with the Dodgers, but
no, of course not. But I mean, he put in some years. Like, what's the JT Snow picking up his kid at home plate?
Yeah.
Like, Dusty's sick, dude. When he comes to San Francisco, like as an opposing manager, since he was here, he always walks in and he like goes to certain restaurants that has relationships with people and checks in. Like, he's such a personable guy. Like,
he's a good dude.
Yeah,
like, I've never heard anybody say bad. He owns a winery in West Sac, I guess.
Okay.
And I'd love to just meet that guy because he's a total hero of mine.
Do you have the MLB app or something? How do you watch the Reds games?
Yeah, I got the MLB app. But, it's kind of funny, man. The last 3 years, I just gave up and I didn't get it because I was just like, I can't watch that baseball anymore. It was just driving me nuts. So this year, same way. I was like, fuck it. And then Father's Day, I'm like, damn, the Reds are starting to look good. So I saw a deal on the MLB app for like $59 for the rest of the season. And I go, sign me up. And it's been entertaining the whole way.
That rules.
Plus I get to see other games but I don't have time to watch other teams. I'll watch the A's, I'll watch the Giants a little bit, but it's taxing, man.
No, big time. I've been like, cause Christian and I started doing this and I didn't realize, but it was just going to amplify my attention to baseball. So like I'm going to a lot of games already, but this is the most games I've ever gone to this year. And we just got baseball fever. Like we're just talking about it, texting each other every morning, but it's been like, dude, sometimes I go to the game early and like try to meet the guys and get an autograph. Like,
that's so rad.
We just got Kyle Harrison came up. So yesterday I went out and he's like the friendliest guy, signed like a ball and a couple cards. And I'm like, this guy could be a Hall of Famer. We don't know. Like he's got all this potential supposedly, But anyway, at the end of the day, you're like, dude, I just put in like 5 or 6 hours in baseball.
But isn't that awesome? Like
Yeah.
you feel like a kid. It's weird.
And it calms me, dude, in a way that a lot of people probably talk about golf. Like it just is like you're kind of out there in your own element and you're chilling. Like you know that you're just chilling for a while. And of course, the game can drive you nuts. Like it's really insane to watch certain things that you're like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Everyone sees it. This guy's an idiot. Like, what are you doing? Why did you do it that way? Of course, we're going to blow it. Like, duh. For me, it's just so calming overall and like such a habit forming thing where you wake up, drink coffee and look at the box scores and kind of see what's going on all around, like who's doing this, major injuries, like whatever. And then like, you know, these young rookies, I really started getting into that in the last year or two where you're like the prospects that are being talked about in AAA, I'm starting to get in tune with them because social media's like, dude, you got to check out this guy in Sacramento, the River Cats, like da, da, da. And then all of a sudden you're paying attention. You're like, oh, this guy's 10-3. He's got like 200 strike. Like this guy, whoa, you know? So it's just been like I said, it was like, it went from like a book to like a whole fucking bookcase, you know?
Yeah. The whole minor league thing is like back when I was a kid, they would have a listing in the paper of all the local prospects, like all the local Sacramento people or whatever. And I grew up in Auburn.
Game up.
But it was still like, for me, it was like the connection was in my area. It was always been Northern California because it was like, those are your people. And those are the ones that you support. And even through skateboarding, obviously, it was the same way. So there's that pride of that because you always feel like these are the underdogs or whatever. So you never had any information, you know, like you do now. You would just have these listings every Sunday. But now you can just go access the Louisville Bats and see who's coming up from the Reds or whatever, you know, River Cats. It's like, it's overwhelming.
Yeah. I mean, it's as deep as you want to dive.
Which can cause some really, really long nights.
Schmitty's down there taking cards, getting them signed by the visiting team. And then all the guys that are playing for the Giants, all the young guys that have come up. And for a little while, he was like the good luck charm. He would go down there. Oh. He'd get a guy to sign, you know, the first day the guy was up in the majors. And like clockwork, the guy would either have a banner day or he'd hit his first major league home run. Yeah. And it was like, I was telling Schmitty, I'm like, dude, get the Giants to hire you to be like the welcome wagon for all the young guys when they come in. Because every time you get them to sign something, they do something great on the field that day.
Yeah. That's still, so did they see you and go, hey, what's up? Like, are you pretty common down there or what?
Yeah, I mean the workers.
Yeah,
we have like a little crew, so I have like probably like I don't know, maybe up to 10, but at least 3. Some of these guys have been doing it for like 30 plus years, and they recognize every guy from afar. I can recognize every guy from afar that's on the Giants, but these guys have every team. I'm like, how the fuck do you know all these guys?
Gnarly.
Dude, it's so gnarly and impressive. And the cool thing is these guys have been doing it since Candlestick. So they have infinite stories, and I just eat them up almost like skateboarding, where you're just like, dude, tell me about Candlestick days. Like I was at Candlestick, but I never thought about like waiting for a player and getting an autograph back then. But these guys were doing it in the parking lot, all over, down at the dugout, all that stuff. And like back then, of course, it was much easier to talk to people and less security and all that stuff. Yeah. So the stories they have are just really cool.
It just seemed like as a kid and going to Candlestick and seeing like the Giants and the Reds, and even just not the Reds, just the Giants or whatever, it was like mythical. Like, I mean, as you get older, obviously everything looks a little bit smaller, but as a kid, and you're like, holy shit, that's like Pete Rose, or that's even Johnny LeMaster, dude, Johnny Disaster,
Johnny Disaster.
But it was like, it's a big deal. And you walk in and you see the field and the green. I still get the same feeling. I get goosebumps every single time.
Especially the first game of a new season.
Yeah. I get kind of choked up sometimes, you know, you're just like, oh, you love it so much because it brings you back to being a kid. It's weird.
Exactly. Yeah. And Candlestick, especially, like you'd come up out of the dark, and Candlestick was massive. So you'd come up out of the dark, and then all of a sudden you'd get a glimpse of the grass. And then as you came out from underneath the mezzanine above you, you're just like, holy shit. It's like being in church, right?
Yeah, totally.
Just insane. Yeah. Candlestick back then was just incredible. I went to so many games all through the 70s and the 80s, and the Giants were terrible. They were awful.
Oh, yeah.
But it didn't matter. You know, you went, you screamed and yelled, you lost your voice. You know, I went with my uncles a lot, and they'd just get shit-faced drunk, and they'd just be, you know, looking to start fights and all kinds of shit. It was great, man. I was just a kid. I just ate it up.
I remember going to Giants games where there were like the Dodgers Giants games. People did full brawls going down, rolling down the aisles. And I'm like a little kid going like, what the hell? It was gnarly.
Yeah. Especially in the bleachers, because in those days, the bleachers was an open ticket.
Oh,
you just buy a ticket and you could sit anywhere you wanted, first come, first serve.
Yep.
So like gangs or crews would get together, and by the halfway through the game, a lot of alcohol, and dudes are fucking going at each other. It was insane out there.
The bleacher section was like general population in prison, dude. It was just like...
And the ball would come over and people would jump the fence down there and scramble. Like, that was sick.
There was that open area past the fence for a while where it would just go in and you can just jump down there.
Yeah.
And then they had artificial turf for a few years, I think. I remember seeing pictures of that.
Right.
Like, and then you'd walk in there and you get blasted by cold air. Just the wind would just, and hot dog wrappers swirling and just going out of the stadium.
Yeah. Dude, I got a question for you, because I've been thinking about this. No disrespect, but Joe Morgan, right? He was a Red, fucking super good Red. He came to the Giants. That must have been sick for you to see, like, a guy that maybe... Yeah. But here's the thing, as he goes out, he's one of the key guys that was keeping Barry Bonds out of the Hall of Fame, and that just put a sour taste in my mouth.
I am not a Bonds fan, like, at all, but I just don't, you know, the whole steroid thing. I didn't really like McGuire. I don't like Canseco. Sammy Sosa, at least, I think, seems a little more chill about that. That's just the way that some of those dudes have carried themselves later on. Just, I don't know, leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And, you know, Barry Bonds, man, was ass, and he would definitely have been a Hall of Famer regardless. But the whole steroids thing.
We are resilient.
We always say that Bonds never fucking pissed dirty. He never failed the test. And here's the main thing for me that's very kind of simplified. He is the all-time home run leader. MLB says he is the all-time home run leader. There's no asterisk. There's no taking him out of the situation, whatever. If the MLB has a Hall of Fame, wouldn't their all-time home run leader be in it?
Yeah, but I mean,
who runs the Hall of Fame? Because shouldn't the same people run it that are MLB and Hall of Fame? It's like, dude, if you're gonna fucking like not let him in there, then maybe you should. I don't want him to take it away, but I'm just saying, like, it should be consistent.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know how that whole thing works. It's like a sports writers, I believe.
It's the writers, yeah.
Yeah.
You can kind of fall back on the Pete Rose argument too a little bit, and there's a bunch of sides to it. But
yeah,
Pete Rose, obviously lifetime ban from baseball for gambling, betting on his own team. But nobody can ever say that Pete Rose bet on his team to lose and threw a game, right? Yeah. Like, he didn't influence outcomes to make money.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's a gray area, but the league says, no, it's a hard line, and he's out. And then with these writers who never played the game are going to sit there and say that Bonds doesn't deserve to be in the Hall, when in his era, at least 75% of the guys in the league were juiced. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Paul Lo Duca wrote a book about it, and he said every single guy on the Dodgers was just completely like gassed up with every kind of, you know, horse muscle building fucking steroid there is. And so you have to kind of take that into account. And so then they have that new, like, what is it? The modern era hall or something, the modern game hall. But it's like, it's kind of a slap in the face to Bonds. He, like Greg said, he never pissed dirty. And to me, that's kind of like, that's the dividing line, man. It's like, yeah, everybody was doing it and guys got caught. And then to see, you know, Alex Rodriguez, who tested dirty 3 times, got suspended, 2 seasons?
Yeah.
And the guy's out there on Fox or whatever, making millions of dollars and sitting there flossing, and everybody treats him like he's the king. And it's like, he was way worse. And he was an asshole.
Yeah. Well, and he's in, right?
No, he's not. He'll never be in. A-Rod's not even going to get on the ballot because obviously, dude, he got nailed. Yeah.
I mean, if they can do with accuracy, and I'm fine with this, is just like if they can prove for a fact that these guys were doing that stuff, I'm totally okay with them not really being in the Hall of Fame, because honestly, to me, it's just like skateboarding. It's like, I got my favorite skaters that aren't going to ever be in the skateboard Hall of Fame. You know, they're just your friends or whatever, that you're just, oh my God, the times with that guy is the best. It won't be in the Hall of Fame. And I think that there's like a personal Hall of Fame for baseball too. Like, but some of those guys that aren't in were some of the greatest, you know, and Bonds is definitely one of the greatest. Yep. But I don't know. I'm a little more hard line on that, I think, you know, and I know a lot of the older dudes like Henry Aaron and Joe Morgan, and some of those guys are they're irritated by it, and I get it, but also those guys were taking like speed and stuff or whatever. So,
dude,
you know, I heard
the pirate guy that took acid. I mean, that's forever. That story is so good.
I would just put him in the Hall of Fame just for that.
For throwing a no-hitter on acid, right?
And not for nothing. Let's compare it to skateboarding for a second. Like these dudes, especially Barry Bonds, like his dad's Bobby Bonds, his godfather's Willie Mays. This dude was born into fucking baseball, and he lived his whole life baseball. Just like a skater that finds skateboarding and drops out of school and gives everything to skateboarding, and then gets slapped in the face at the end where he's got nothing but skateboarding. Same thing with baseball. It's like, dude, if they fucking found him guilty, that's one thing, you know, put him behind bars, whatever you're going to do. But they didn't. For me, the Giants were in a position where they were about to move to Florida. And they got Barry Bonds, and they got a new stadium, and San Francisco blew the fuck up. This whole area that I live in now didn't exist. And it wouldn't exist without Barry. Barry made so many people come to the game. They never won the World Series, but Barry was the attraction, much like a Shohei Ohtani, where it's like, we just got to see this guy. And how many times in the 9th inning, that motherfucker sent me home stoked because he had a home run to win the game. It's like, that will never be unappreciated by me. And as a baseball fan, that's baseball. So to me, it's super obvious. I know I'm a San Franciscan and he was a San Franciscan, but to me, it's like, that guy needs to be in the Hall of Fame. It did salt me that Joe Morgan, an ex-player, I just felt it was weird. Like, I'm like, man, you're like kind of an ambassador and you're like on ESPN's Game of the Weeks. It's like him and Miller together. And I'm sure Miller would say he thinks Barry should be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. It was just kind of weird. Like, did he like get together with your girl or something? Like, what happened?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Joe's like my favorite baseball player. Him and Johnny Bench are my 2 all-time favorites. And Joe Morgan, when we were kids, we used to do the whole, you know, arm flap and try to copy him, you know. But yeah, you know, Joe Morgan's an Oakland guy.
Hey, and Joe Morgan knocked the Dodgers out of the playoffs at Candlestick with the home run, and I'll never forget that. He's got the Brian Johnson, you know, there's certain guys that like – they did one thing, but it was really important, and those are the guys that are forever Giants.
Yeah, no, totally.
So let's talk about the Reds for a minute, dude. A half game out of the wild card and hanging in there. I mean, what do you think, Curtis? It's like this is a big one. The Giants are a game and a half out. They've been, you know, taking on water for 2 months.
Yeah,
and the Reds have seemed kind of bobbing up and down a little more than sinking. So give us your thoughts on it.
Man, as a Reds fan, I got serious PTSD of just like being let down every single year. And this year it looked really good. And then after the All-Star game, that's kind of when the good teams really start to take off. And they just haven't, they're not even 500, after the All-Star game. So it's really difficult to like get my hopes up. But as I watch them, I'm looking at them more for the future. Like, this is a cool year. It'd be great to see them get to the playoffs. I just don't think they're set up for it yet, but it's just these rookies, man. They had an entire infield of rookies going like the last couple games. And I love it. It's so fun to watch, but it's also super frustrating because they make rookie mistakes and they're not disciplined at the plate like a vet would be. But I think next year that's going to be a whole different ball game, man.
I feel the same way for the Giants. The thing that I don't like is the Giants are playing these guys less now. And it's like, dude, play them all the time because next year they'll be experienced.
Yeah, totally.
Here's our wild card race, right? We got Philadelphia at the top, Chicago second, Arizona third. There's 3 spots. Then Cincinnati is a half game behind Arizona and San Francisco 1.5 game back. What I'm thinking, looking at those 3 teams, the chances are Philadelphia to me is going to be in there. They're one of the 3 for sure. I don't know if I'm sold on Chicago finishing strong, and I'm not sure about Arizona finishing strong. I think one of those teams that are in the 3 now will not be in the 3 at the end. And I don't know if it'll be Giants or Reds that will replace them, but I do believe one of those 2 teams will be in the top 3 with Philadelphia and either Chicago or Arizona. What do you think?
Chicago, like Reds have struggled against them in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's just good, dude. Their fucking pitching is insane.
Yep.
And Chicago just got hot, man. They were playing. I don't know what they're doing now, but the Reds have at least 1 4-game series with them coming up at home, and it's going to be rough. Just the Cubs are just playing freaking good, and they dismantled their team 2 years ago.
That's what's
crazy, dude. And look at that. Reds can't fucking rebuild. It takes them 15, 20 years to rebuild a team, But Chicago, man, they got rid of some big players, but got really good prospects for them, and they're just super smart.
Yeah, look what they did in the offseason, too. They made a lot of moves that were like a little below radar, like a Bellinger, like we're not sure what he's going to do because he was struggling in L.A. I think the GOAT is still going to curse him. I don't think Cubs are making it. I love that story, dude. When I went to Wrigley, we went to that bar and we talked to the owner that his grandpa was the guy and all about the GOAT and that whole thing. And it was just, I was like, dude, this is amazing.
Oh, the Billy Goat Tavern?
Yeah.
I got a hat somewhere here. My wife went back in the day.
It's like underground a little. Yeah.
Yep, I never been.
It's really cool.
Yeah, the Cubs, man. That's rough. Cubs, Indians, never been. Mariners look really good. They never been. Angels, I think the Angels have been to the World Series once.
They won it in 2002. They beat the Giants.
Oh, shit, that's right.
Yeah.
Wait. Rally monkey.
Dusty Baker. Dude, this is the one thing I still, we're 21 years down the road. I still can't forgive Dusty for pulling the pitcher in Game 6.
Was it Russ Ortiz?
Right, he pulled Russ Ortiz. He handed him the game ball, and they flashed to the Angels dugout, and you saw all the dudes in the Angels dugout on the rail, and you could just see the bonfire start instantly. Like they were like, "There is no fucking way Dusty just handed that dude the game ball and let him walk off with a 4-run lead. Like this is not happening. We are going to punish him for that," and they fucking did.
Yeah.
He pulled the Ortiz out, and it just turned into a shit show. They won Game 6 to tie the series, and then Game 7 wasn't even a contest. The Angels just blew them out. Dusty just got the weird quick trigger finger, and it just backfired in a horrible way.
A lot of Giants fans just never forgave him for that. I got friends that still – I saw you shaking your head earlier when I mentioned how you were just going
Hey, tell us about this rookie phenom, Elly De La Cruz, because he came up. He wasn't here at the beginning of the season, right?
No, he was in. They brought him up around in early June, I think, or mid-June.
So
You know,
do you think if he started the year and played the way he's playing, he would be a contender for Rookie of the Year? It seems like Corbin's probably going to get it this year.
Corbin's going to get it. Yeah.
But do you think is he comparable to Corbin, like in a full season head to head?
Oh, I think when Elly really like gets good at like picking his pitches and learning how to hit an off-speed pitch, it's going to be crazy. Like he's got defensive skills. His arm is insane.
Yeah.
He could probably be a fucking pitcher. Like he throws so freaking hard, and he's so young, and he's got that enthusiasm, and he's having fun, dude. He's like always smiling, and it's just important. Good for it's great for baseball. It's so good.
Yeah, he reminds me of O'Neal Cruz, but a better version, maybe.
I think he could be like they talked about him coming up. Like he was going to be like a once in a generation kind of player. And it's even if he gets traded later on because the Reds just can't afford him or whatever when his contract's up, it doesn't matter to me. I just would even be stoked whatever team he was on, as long as it wasn't the Dodgers or the Yankees. Right. You know?
Yeah, they should try to keep him. I mean, I was watching the Arizona feed last night of that game, and he came up, I think, in the 10th or the 11th inning, and they said, well, here he is. He's 0 for 3, but that doesn't mean anything because he's one of the scariest players in the Reds lineup. And this is the Arizona guy saying that. And I'm like, yeah, he could put a hurting on you right now. He didn't really do anything, but I think I'm with you. I think his plate discipline needs work. He's really young, and that's one of those things that it's just repetition, daily routine, getting enough playing time, and just sticking with the guy. Which I think in San Francisco, unfortunately, that sometimes they just want to they don't want to stick with a guy, and it's like we're pretty much in rebuild mode at this point. So Casey Schmidt should be in there every day. Elliot Ramos should be in there every day.
Yeah.
Guys that they need the plate appearances to get used to major league pitching, right? And I think De La Cruz is probably right in that same boat. It's like he hasn't seen enough dudes yet. It doesn't matter how many times you watch a guy throw a pitch on an iPad. It's not like standing up there and facing him, right?
No,
But Ellie's like a really, you can look at this guy and just know he has the potential and all the skills to play this game the way that, for me, a guy that can turn a walk into a triple, I want that dude on my team.
Dude, he changes. Look what pitchers, when he gets on first base, the pitchers, they're off.
Yeah.
He throws the whole thing off because they know
it's so fun to watch speed.
He'll score from first base. It's insane.
Yeah.
You know,
I want that kind of player so bad.
It's the D. Gordon effect, right? Like the greatest bike thief of all time, D. Gordon.
But this dude has power.
No. I'm just saying in terms of being a base runner. D. Gordon would get on base, and every single pitcher that was throwing when he was on base was just completely flustered because the guy's dancing around. He's probably talking shit. He's like making moves over there, and it's like the pitcher can't even focus on his job, which is to fucking go after the guy at the plate because he's worried about this little midget at first base who's running around. And it's just like, De La Cruz is like, he's got that same game, it's just, he's super fast and he's over there. And once he gets on, you're like, well, shit, I'm going to give up another 90 feet, most likely. It's a foregone conclusion.
You see those pitchers, man, and they rush their deliveries. Well, number one, you got a clock now,
right? But
they're also wanting to get that ball to the catcher as soon as possible. It's amazing. But the other dude for the Reds is McLean, and he'll probably be like number 2 for the Rookie of the Year, just under the radar, hitting like 290 or whatever. Super, super consistent. Like he's really, really good.
What about Hunter Green, the pitcher?
He had a rough one the last couple of games because he just got off of the IL. He hurt his hip, and he just got shelled. He started out okay the other night for 3 innings, and then it just kind of fell apart. But I think he'll be good.
He seems like he gets a lot of notoriety. He's like a young up-and-comer that they got a lot of potential, right?
Throws hard.
Yeah.
But, I don't know what it's like for, the fan bases or whatever. The fan base, Cincinnati Reds fan base are some of the most stupid people I have ever read in my life. Like, you're reading these posts on Facebook.
Oh yeah, you
And
gotta
there's these
stay out of that.
Midwest hicks that are just kind of like almost like sublime racist about certain players, and and it's maddening. It's so maddening to read this. And oh, they won today and everyone's quiet. Oh, they lose today. David Bell needs to get fired. Send Elly back down. Hunter Green is a thrower, not a pitcher. And you're like, dude, these are pitchers. Those dudes up there that are at the fucking top level are not throwers. They are pitchers, dude. And they've got pitches, and it's so much more than they realize. They're just idiots. I'm sorry.
I know. And the whole thing, I mean, it's the morning fucking radio jocks are the same way, where they're just bandwagon with this, like, oh, they lost 3 in a row, fuck them, and they win one game. Okay, like they're, and maybe we're guilty of it too a little. It does play with your emotions, obviously, but it's just crazy. Like, it's 162 games.
Yeah, don't bring the technology ADD into the fucking game, like, it's just the pitch clock is like, I kind of like that it speeds up the pace of games. My problem with it is they're going to have it in the playoffs, and some of the greatest baseball moments in the postseason ever is when a pitcher is staring down a batter, and there's all this psychic shit going on. There's runners on base, like the mental game is just gnarly. And there's like those times where the guy steps off like 3 times. He throws over to first like 5 times. None of that's happening anymore. So the drama, I think, in the playoffs is going to be maybe lowered a little bit. It's still going to be the game. It's still going to be exciting and fun and everything else. I just feel like there's certain things, like they don't have the ghost runner in the postseason, which is great.
Good Lord, I hate that. Like,
that's
softball,
the worst one
dude.
for sure.
That's the worst. I hate it. You know who I like for the Giants right now, dude, is Bailey. That dude's so badass.
He's kind of like maybe one of the best catchers in baseball, at least defensively.
The catcher for me is the centerpiece of a baseball team. It's like the drummer for a band. There's no such thing as a great band with like an average or shitty drummer. And like, I think that teams that win a World Series, you can't get by with like a average or sub-average catcher, or maybe you got a platoon 2 guys to make up for that difference. Right. But like, that's why Posey, dude, he was the center of that team. Like, dude, for sure. That was it. You take him out of the equation, and their first year without him, look what happened. And it's like the Cardinals, and they lost
Molina.
Yeah, Molina. Yeah, so this is their first year without him, and they're in last place. And I think it leaves such a hole.
Yep.
Yeah. Meanwhile, their top prospect, Joey Bart, still up in Sacto eating tacos with Joe Sierra, man.
I just saw Joe a couple weeks ago, man.
I love that dude. He was on Think when I worked for Think, so I knew him good.
Yeah, Joe rules. I love that dude.
Well, let's talk about skateboarding a little bit. I didn't know you were born in Auburn and stuff, but like, when did skateboarding come into your life?
Well, I was born in San Francisco.
You grew up in Auburn.
Yeah. Then we moved. I lived there for like, a year or whatever. And then my parents moved to Canoga Park. My brother was born there. Then we moved to Auburn. And that was like in the mid 60s or whatever. And I just grew up, I grew up in Auburn. That's till I was like 22 or whatever. And then I moved to San Diego to go to school. And So I got to skate like Del Mar a lot at the end, right? And then moved up to Sacramento to go to Sac State. And then I had known Ricky and Sam and those guys from skating ramps that we had up in Meadow Vista, and just kind of reconnected with everybody, But it was like in Auburn, like there was nobody, dude. I was like, there was no one before us that skated, so I didn't have a reference for it. Right. There was just some kid in my neighborhood had a Black Knight skateboard. I know it sounds so cliche, but it was a Black Knight skateboard with the clay wheels, and the neighborhood shared it. So like everybody had to share one board, and I would take it at night and I would hide it in the bushes
Yeah.
And so nobody could find it. So the next day I had first dibs on the board and I would never give it up. And I would just like, this is mine.
Right.
And then one day I was at a friend's house and some guy from LA or whatever comes up and he had this board with like urethane wheels. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like you can kick turn without falling or sliding, or that was it. That just changed everything. It just came out of that.
Yeah. So when you were a kid, like Skateboard Palace, Carmichael,
Oh,
Sierra
hell yeah.
Wave. Did you ever get to the park in Twain Harte?
Wait, what?
There was a park in Twain Harte.
No way.
You know the little miniature golf course there in Twain Harte?
Yeah, yeah.
There was a skate park right behind it.
No
in the 70s.
Way.
Yeah, I think I when we used to be on Concrete Disciples way back, dude. I think I told you about. I used to spend like a couple of weeks in Citrus Heights every summer when I was a kid.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So,
I remember that.
I know you went to all those places. I mean, for sure, Sierra Wave and Skateboard Palace was nuts, man.
Asbestos, just gnarly. That's the first time I saw Rick Blackheart in the tunnel team, and I was just like, holy shit. I'm just on flat ground experience. Then I see these weird divots and bowls, and it was too much. I couldn't figure out how they were doing what they were doing.
Yeah. I've tried to explain that place to people a million times, and I've never seen any good, like, sort of overview photos of it to explain like the whole layout of it. But I mean, I went there a bunch of times when I was a little kid, so I remember it like it was yesterday. And the whole layout of that place was fucking nuts, dude.
Yeah, it had a hole in the center, had a slanted freestyle area in the front, and they had these two bowls in the corners that had tile but no coping.
No coping, yeah.
And then they may have added some later on. Then it closed, and all the pinball machines were left there. And I never skated it after it closed, but that's where Ricky and Sam kind of like became friends. And Rick was saying, oh man, we go in there and the pinball machines were like all there. Like it was just, you snuck in the back, and that was going on for like.
So cool.
Yeah. For a little bit.
That place was nuts. And I remember it being painted too. Like there were places where the paint was like super slippery. And so
you're breathing that stuff.
Yeah, where they had like the weird little, like you said, like there was a weird little bowl in the middle, and then they had this sort of like snake run thing that came down on one side, and it was like if you got too close to the top of the lip, you just slipped out because the paint was gnarly. And but dude, it was rad. Like I'd go there in the summer, and it was like super cheap. I think it was like $1 to skate there all day or something.
Dude, my first day, it's so funny. I wish I had a picture of this. My first day at a skate park ever. Like you have to wear safety equipment. So I just had volleyball pads on my knees and elbows. And I had my mom's gardening gloves and my dad's construction helmet with the fucking Naga hide chin strap that he made on a sewing machine. And I'm just like, hey, what's going on? Hey. And I'm like, I am so out of my element. Like, who is this kid? It was like so crazy. My dad's name was on the front of the helmet. With those little punch things, Jerry Franklin. I was.
Hey, it's always been DIY.
Totally.
Yeah.
I didn't know any different.
Speaking of that, dude, give us the origin story of your pool.
Shit, man. You know what? It's like it's the second pool I ever built. So when I was a kid, I came from a background of I had to work every weekend. My dad was just very task oriented, and we built an addition on the house. We went through 3 pools. We built a stand up pool a couple times, and that leaked, and we took it down. And my dad's like, we're going to build a pool, owner builder. We're going to do this. And so we built the whole thing and hired a company to come in and shoot it. And he worked for a construction company, and I got to see the whole process, how it was built. Uh-huh. And then I'd see way later on, Chicken did one, and I can't remember.
Belmar?
Belmar Kelly's. So I was like, oh, this is doable. I can do this. And so we moved to this house, and I go, we got to have something with some room in the back. And then I want to build something. And then so we were going down to Border Town and helping out once in a while, because I'd known Josh before that. And then
Right.
that's how I met Tony and Aubrey and Albino and Wizard and all those dudes, you know. And I go, hey man, this is what I got going on. What do you guys think? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. You know, but it's like no one had ever built a swimming pool.
What year
You
was
know?
that? Like 2004 or something?
My son's 20. He was like probably I'd say like 18 years ago. Yeah.
2005.
Ish. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and we just did a owner builder thing and just chipped away at it. And yeah.
And then
It's-
you got water in the summer because it's hot as shit, and then you drain it in the winter? Is
Yeah,
that-
I haven't drained it in a while. I drained it this year because we remodeled it. But I was just, this is weird, but it's like back when we did it, it was still a small thing. Like it was still like you guys would come up and it would be cool and people could skate and it wouldn't be too much. And I think gradually I was over it. Like it became so many people that
Oh,
my friends would come in from out of town and then you'd like want them to ride and they couldn't because there's too many people and I wasn't good at saying no. And I was like, fuck it, dude. Let's just call it a day. And then when I empty it, I'll empty it and then we'll do another session. And we did that last year, you know,
keep
it was
on
just
the down
hard.
low.
Yeah. And I just I'm not good at regulating things, man. It's just, you know, it's just hard because skateboarding's so fucking huge, man.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming.
I mean, we had a ramp in our backyard for a long time, and it's a mini ramp. So that is available for way more people because a lot of people can't skate pools. You know, pools are tough.
Yeah,
A mini ramp is like one day I come home and Bob Schmelzer's on the ramp on roller skates, and we just heckled the shit out of him. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you don't even call and you show up and you're on roller skates? Like, bro, you know, like you just have so many misfits, but you're at the same time, you're like, I don't want to be a fucking hypocrite. I've been that dude. I climbed
I know.
fences and skated
Oh,
shit
yeah.
my whole life. So it's like, it's a weird one, right? It's like, you don't want to be that kooky, like ramp owner that's like the power tripper, but you also want to have some respect at the same time. So
Yeah.
there's a fine line.
Because I'd open 3 times a week or whatever. And then, you know, it's just my body, I'm 60 years old. So I'll be 61 in November. And my body just started to slow down. I couldn't
Oh,
react.
yeah.
And I couldn't get out of stuff. Like that was the whole thing about tricks was you can get into it, but can you get out? And I started not being able to get out and took a fucking beating. So I kind of got into other things. Like I fish a lot. Like and I have an obsession with it.
Right.
So I can go to the American and go fish, but I can still go skate. I can skate, go fish, hang out with my family, and do it all in one day. So I can feed all these things that I like doing, you know?
What's your favorite? You a salmon fisher? Or you go lure or bait or what?
I'm I'm way into fly fishing right now. Like a
Oh,
spay,
that's tough.
like two-handed spay rods. They're like these really long Scottish style for like big water. So they're like 12-foot rods and you can just huck them. You just, over your shoulder and boom, and they just go. And striper, salmon are the
Sick.
big ones. Steelhead's huge. I love it. That's my favorite fish. And then Lake Pyramid up in Reno, they've got Lahontan cutthroat, which are just, it's a world-class fishery. And this year I finally got into a bunch of fish and it was like learning experience. It's a whole different vibe up there.
Right when the first rains come, the sturgeon come into the bay. And one year I caught a sturgeon and I retired. I was like,
I've never got one.
Prehistorical 5-footer. What's his name? Fucking the guy that works Josh shipping. Hambone, yeah. And he had a fish thing going, and he was into this crazy like secret society drinking. I forget what it was called, but like you had to be invited to be in it, and you go to the woods with a Budweiser truck and just drink all weekend. Like this dude was pro. But this dude fished all the time, and he wanted to catch a sturgeon so bad. And one day, McKinney calls me. He's like, dude, they're hitting. I come out and I catch one. Dude, Josh was so pissed.
Yes.
He was like, fucker, I've been going out for years. You come out one night and catch one like that.
They're hard to catch. They're hard. I mean,
Dude, they're a fight. Yeah. It took me like an hour to pull it in.
I can't sit still. So fishing in a boat for me is difficult. I got, whatever. I got ADHD or whatever.
Yeah.
I wade. I mean, I'll walk the American River. I'll go all day, and it's like, and I just love being out there, and I love catching salmon. I fish salmon on regular gear, but they closed the season down this year for everybody, commercial, just because the numbers are kind of low, and there's been some mismanagement of water and fisheries and stuff. And I just hope it comes back, but because there's those mornings when you get out there, and you get out there an hour before before sunrise, and that's legal. And you just come up there and you're in the dark and the sun comes up and you're seeing these guys, hey, what's up?
Sick.
Dude's got beer, and it's
Tolan's out there in his boat.
Oh yeah, dude, the RC plane. But yeah, it's a whole different ball game.
I'm big on stream fishing trout stuff.
Awesome.
And so out in Mammoth, like I like to go like try to hike the really remote streams where you catch the natives and stuff, not the stock trout. Because the stock trout are just like, you throw it in, you got a fish on the line instantly. So
I don't like that.
I found some really bitching kind of, you got to walk for a while and get to these places, getting there like right before the sun comes up, big thermos full of coffee, hike the stream, and like near the Obsidian Dome on the other side of Mammoth Creek. And all
hell yeah, dude.
Some fantastic. I pulled some fish out of there. It's so beautiful. Never seen trout that looked like that before.
And those are like browns or brooks, right?
Golden browns with the big red dots on them. Some brook trout. I mean, they're not the standard farm fish, right?
No, because they don't stock browns or brooks.
No,
so the only thing
natives.
They stock are rainbows, so
they're natives. And I talked to one of the locals up there, and I actually shot pictures of some of the ones that I caught and threw back. And they were little guys, I showed pictures to this guy, and he's like, fuck, you never see those, where did you see this? And I'm like, dude, I can't tell you.
Dude, browns are the most beautiful fish. Like, you just hold those things in your hand and you're just like, holy shit. Amazing.
It's like holding a gold brick, right? It's
totally.
I was up there barbless, and the nice thing about the native trout too is that they don't swallow the fucking hook every time like the farm trout.
Yeah, right? You get them in the lip. Yeah,
you get them in the lip, and you're barbless, and you put a little hole in their lip, and they're like, "Thanks for the thanks for the piercing, asshole," and then they swim off, and they're giving you the fucking middle finger, right? But
this year, since the salmon's closed, you can still target like striper and steelhead. So I don't know. I mean, it's still ethical, but it's like I've never gotten a salmon on a fly rod before, on a big fly rod. So this year I'll be targeting mostly like steelhead and striper. But I mean, if you get a salmon, you can hook it. You just got to let it go. Yep. So but it's weird out there, man. You get a lot of people that are super like unethical about how many fish they take, and I don't know. It's a bummer.
I'm curious, like, dude, with the snow we got this year, the snow melt, the rivers must just be jamming right now, right?
Dude, you couldn't, they have this fish that comes up called a shad, and they're these small, they're like a miniature tarpon, but they're like these pound for pound, it's the hardest fighting fish, but they're just not very big, but it takes them, they just go. But, you get a small one or a larger one that's a couple pounds, and it's like on. And I couldn't even fish. Usually I catch 100 of those things in the summertime, but I got one this year because the water was so high, and I don't have a boat, but dudes in boats can get to spots when the water's high, but it was also so cold that it just changed everything. But that's good. We need that,
Definitely.
Well, let's, I got to get going pretty soon. I got to go find Chili Davis and Kevin Mitchell out there. I'm going to bait you into giving me a prediction. We got a 3-game series starting tomorrow. Cincinnati Reds coming into fucking Oracle. What is going to be the series final?
I think the Reds are going to win the first game with Abbott, but he's going against
Kyle Harrison. I talked to him yesterday. He's ready.
And that's the wild card. I don't know, man.
If the Giants don't win the series against the Reds, they're not going to make the postseason. That's what I'm saying.
And it's the same for the Reds. I think that's it. I think that's the one where it's like, man, we're going to pack it in. I'm going to say 2-1, the Reds.
All right. Well, then I'll be a sad person on Thursday.
Yeah, that'll fuck us up. And for sure, the Giants are getting swept by Atlanta because they're on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball.
Yeah.
They've won one game on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball in the last 4 years.
Thwarted by analytics.
Here's one thing we know. The Giants, if they win Monday or Wednesday, they'll win the series because Tuesday is City Connect, and some reason they never lose on City Connect.
Brad, before we cut out, I want to tell you one crazy it's a baseball story, okay?
Yeah.
So I was with a group of dudes and we were going to some show or something back in like the 80s in San Francisco, and we're driving and my buddy's wearing like a Giants hat. And I had just met him and stuff. And we're talking about, oh, yeah, I love the Reds, blah, blah, blah. And we're talking about the Giants. And he's like, well, where are you from? And I go, oh, I'm from Auburn. And he's like, oh, do you know Jeff Blauser? And he was a shortstop for the Braves at the time. And we grew up together. We played soccer and baseball and stuff. And he was a couple years younger than me. And I go, yeah, man, Jeff Blauser's my homie, you know, blah, blah, blah. He's like, no way, you don't know Jeff Blauser. I go, yeah, no, it's a small town. Everybody knows each other. Super good dude. His dad, Gary's an electrician, blah, blah, blah. And he was like totally like, yeah, whatever. You know, like he was totally doubting me or whatever. And I swear to God, dude, we were in fucking like Vacaville or Fairfield, and we're just driving down the freeway. And who is in a fucking car next to us on the freeway? Dude, Jeff Blauser with his girlfriend. And I'm rolling the window down. What's up, Jeff Blauser? What's going on? I was like, hey, Curtis, how you? Were like going back and forth on the freeway. And my buddy's all, whoa. Like, whenever I see that guy to this day, I'm like, dude, you're the only person that can validate that happened, because I would be like thinking that's like a dream that I had, that it wasn't real.
I'm just curious if you know the distinction.
We got to get him on the pod, man.
Man, I haven't seen that guy in forever. He was the first guy that when I was living in San Diego, I'd go down and see the games, and he's in the dugout, and I'm going, dude, how did this happen? Like, there's Ozzie Virgil and Dale Murphy, and I'm like, how did you made the transition from Little League to pros? And it was just, my brain, it was just weird.
Strubing grew up with Pat Burrell in Boulder Creek.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, that's his claim. I mean, he's good friends with Pat Burrell. Like, when Strubing lived here, he would go to games all the time when Burrell was on the Giants.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty interesting stuff.
My kid gets to work out at this place called Optimum Athletics, and it's like a pitching program here in Sacramento. And they have all the pro dudes go there. So he gets to work out with like Sammy Long and,
wow.
and
Sammy's
like,
really a nice guy.
My son loves him because my son's really big. He's like 6'7". And Giolito was working out there, and like Webb was working out there because he's from Rockland.
Yeah.
But you're just around these dudes, and they're super supportive. And like he said, it's just the raddest experience, you know? It's good.
Speaking of that, are you into lighting the beam?
Okay, check this out. I wish I had a video of it. Okay, so I watched the Kings at Rick's house. I go over there every Friday. He's a huge Kings fan. Him and the brothers, Jorge and Robert, we all watch the games. And I wasn't really every year I'd go, man, fuck the Kings. They're not going to win this year. Dude, for the last 15 years, Rick's like, this is the year. This is the year. 15 years of this shit. Because I told you they'd do it this year. And I'm like, yeah, broken clocks, right? Twice a day or whatever. You know? So we had the beam caught on. And I was like, okay, cool. So I made a beam. And Rick has like a magnetic flashlight that he bought at Harbor Freight. And it goes up, and it's like those swivel lights. Yeah. And it goes up, and we put it on this I got like a file cabinet, and it's metal next to the TV in his garage. So he's working on cars, and we're drinking and talking shit, watching the Kings game. Everyone's freaking out. And Rick's still working on stuff, you know, because he can't sit still. And so I go, I'm going to make a beam. So I went to the local like porno store, And then I was like, hey, I'm looking for some purple rubbers. Like, and they're going, why? I go, I'm going to make this beam. And they're just like, weird. I walk out of this porno store at daylight. And it would be like somebody I would know see me walking out of the Lemoore shop. So I go to Rick's. I go, dude, this is it. So I got 2 rubbers and I put them over the top of it. And so then every time he's like, it was pretty brilliant, actually. So when they'd win, we'd hit the flashlight and it would be like this dick looking thing on the file cabinet. Yeah. And I got
That's
a video.
amazing.
I'll send you a video of it somewhere. And
Please
Rick's hands are like, I put it on slow motion. He's all like this weird thing. And it was pretty fucking awesome.
Fuck yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. The DIY beam.
Hey, well, text me tomorrow because we'll both be out there.
Okay.
Let's get a high five at
I
the
will.
game. And fuck, dude, thank you so much for doing this. It's
No,
super
thanks for
stoked.
having me. I love this stuff. I could do this all day. I'm a nerd.
Hell yeah. Well, if anyone's out there listening, tell a friend, have them tell a friend. Skaters
I
on
will.
Baseball podcast comes out pretty much every week.
Cool.
We never know what day, but if you guys put a 5-star recommendation in the iTunes thing,
Yeah.
we will grow like a flower.
Okay. I like growing flowers.
Well, hell yeah, man. I'm going to get out
Okay.
there. We got 40 plus Giants in town from the past for Murphy. He's getting the plaque on the wall today.
Oh, that's today.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the list is insane. It's like Omar Vizquel, Atlee Hammaker, Willie Mays, Barry Bonds, like lots of people. So I'm going to go over there
rad.
and see. I got all of my old cards together. I'm going to go fan out.
Dude, that's so rad.
All right. Well, thanks again, man. Appreciate you.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right,
thanks,
Christian. Good
Curtis.
seeing you guys,
Yeah,
man. I love you
likewise,
guys.
man.
Hell yeah.
Take care.
Take it easy.
All right, take it easy, bud. Thanks for listening to this episode of Skaters on Baseball. If you liked what you heard, please spread the word, give us a good review, or hell, blow us up on your social media if you're down. Follow us at Skates on Base on Instagram for baseball news and other fun stuff. We love comments and listener participation, so bring it with an audio clip or an email. You can email us at skatersonbase@gmail.com. We're everywhere you get your podcasts, and we'll be here all season long.
Let's go, San Francisco. Let's go, Giants.
I'm excited to give everything that I have for these next 6 seasons and, see where it takes us.
They can't say it anymore, Complete game, shutout, no hitter, leave me alone.
See you soon. Thank you.
And I am forever a Giant.